At that dinner table, my son-in-law slapped my daughter, hard enough that the sound didn't just stop the conversation. It erased it. No one spoke. Not his mother. Not his father. Not a single person at that table. My daughter didn't cry. She didn't look at him. She just lowered her eyes and adjusted her napkin like nothing had happened. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't the first time. My name is Eleanor Graves. I'm 63 years old. I raised my daughter alone. I've spent most of my life knowing the difference between a mistake and a pattern. What I saw that night wasn't a mistake. It was routine. There were 8 of us at that table. Plates still warm. Glasses half full. Someone had just passed the bread. And in the middle of all of that, he hit her. Like it belonged there. Like it was part of the evening. I didn't move right away. I watched. That's something you learn with age. You don't react first. You observe. His mother took a sip of her wine. Calm. Measured. Then she said, almost casually, "Don't start. You know how he gets. You know how he gets." Not shock. Not concern. Not even discomfort. Just acceptance. I looked around the table. At the faces. At the silence people build when they've agreed not to see something. And it became very clear to me. This wasn't one man's behavior. This was a system. My daughter still hadn't looked up. Not once. Her hands were steady. Too steady. Like she had practiced this. Like she had learned exactly how to survive moments like this without making them worse. That's when something inside me went completely still. Not anger. Not panic. Something colder. Clarity. I pushed my chair back. Slowly. The legs scraped lightly against the floor. That sound carried further than anything anyone had said so far. He looked at me then. Finally. A small smile. The kind that assumes nothing is going to happen. "You're not going to make this a big deal, are you?" he said. I held his gaze. And for the first time since I walked into that house, I saw him clearly. Not as my son-in-law. Not as family. But as a man who had never been challenged. "You're right," I said. My voice didn't rise. Didn't shake. "I'm not." I reached into my purse. Took out my phone. His mother sighed softly. Annoyed. "Honestly," she said, "some things should stay inside the family." I looked at her. And I understood something even more important. This wasn't just allowed. It was protected. I turned. Walked past the table. Past the hallway. Out the front door. The air outside was cool. Quiet. Normal. Like the world hadn't just shifted inside that house. I didn't hesitate. I dialed. He picked up on the second ring. "I need you," I said. A pause. Then, "I'm on my way." I ended the call. Stood there for a moment. And let the silence settle. Because by then, I wasn't trying to understand what happened. I already knew. What I needed to do next was make sure it never happened again. I stayed outside longer than I needed to. Not because I didn't want to go back in, but because I needed a moment where things made sense. Inside that house, nothing did. When I walked back in, no one had moved much. That's what struck me first. The table looked almost exactly the same. Plates still there. Glasses still half full. Someone had even continued eating. My daughter was in the kitchen now, standing by the sink. Back turned. Hands under running water, even though there was nothing in them. I didn't speak right away. I just watched. The way her shoulders were held. Tight. Controlled. Like every movement had to be measured. "You don't have to do that," I said finally. She froze. Just for a second. Then turned the water off. Slowly. "I'm fine," she said. Not looking at me. I nodded. Because that's what people say when they've learned that the truth makes things worse. "I'm going to stay tonight," I said. Still calm. Still even. She shook her head. "Quick. Too quick." "No, you don't need to." "I'm not asking," I said. That stopped her. Not because I raised my voice. Because I didn't. She looked at me then. Really looked. And for a moment, I saw it. That same thing from the table. Not fear. Not exactly. Permission. Like she was waiting to see what I was going to allow. "I'll take the couch," I added. Simple. Practical. She didn't argue again. Just nodded. Once. From the dining room, I could still hear them. His mother. Laughing softly. Like nothing had happened. Like we were all still inside the same normal evening. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the slap. Not even the silence after. The continuation. How quickly everything returned to normal. Later that night, the house got quiet. Doors closed. Lights off. The kind of quiet that should feel peaceful. It didn't. I didn't sleep. Not really. I sat in the living room, the lamp on low, listening. Every sound mattered. Footsteps upstairs. A door opening. A shift in the floorboards. At around 1:20 in the morning, I heard it. A voice. Low. Sharp. His. I couldn't make out the words. Not clearly. But I didn't need to. Tone tells you enough. Then hers. Softer. Trying to calm something. A pause. And then. A thud. I stood up immediately. Didn't rush. Didn't run. I walked. Up the stairs. Down the hallway. To the guest room door. It was slightly open. Just enough. I pushed it the rest of the way. They both turned. My daughter was sitting on the edge of the bed. Head down. Hands in her lap. He was standing over her. Too close. What's going on? I asked. He straightened slightly. Not startled. Just annoyed. Nothing, he said. We're talking. I looked at my daughter. She didn't answer. She needs to rest, I said. He let out a small breath. Like I was the inconvenience. She's fine, he replied. You don't need to step in every time she gets emotional. Every time. I let that sit for a second. Then I stepped fully into the room. Not aggressive. Not loud. Just present. She's coming downstairs with me, I said. He laughed once. Short. Sharp. No, she's not. I looked at him. And this time, I didn't see confidence. I saw something else. Challenge. Like this was the moment where I was supposed to back off. Where things would go back to the way they were. I didn't move. I'm not asking, I said again. Same tone. Same calm. Something shifted. Small. But enough. He stepped back. Just half a step. That was all it took. My daughter stood up slowly. Didn't look at him. Didn't speak. She just walked past me. Out of the room. I stayed there for a second longer. Just long enough to make one thing clear. This wasn't going to continue. The way it had before. Then I turned. And followed her downstairs. We sat in the living room. Same lamp. Same quiet. She didn't speak. Not at first. Then. Mom, she said. Her voice broke on the word. I didn't interrupt. I didn't want you to see that, she added. I shook my head slightly. I'm glad I did, I said. She looked at me. Confused. Why, she asked. Because now. There was no doubt. Because now. There was nothing left to ignore. But I didn't say all of that. I just looked at her. And said the only thing that mattered. It's not stopping here. I didn't turn off the light that night. Not in the living room. Not anywhere downstairs. Simone eventually leaned back against the couch. Not sleeping. Just closing her eyes. Like her body was trying to rest without letting go completely. I stayed in the chair across from her. Watching. Listening. At some point, the house went completely still. No footsteps. No doors. No voices. That didn't mean anything had stopped. It just meant everything had gone quiet. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, I stood up. Walked into the kitchen. Opened one of the drawers slowly. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Just moving. Thinking. That's when I saw it. A small bottle. Tucked behind a stack of folded dish towels. Prescription. Not mine. I picked it up. Read the label. Simone's name. The medication wasn't for pain. It wasn't for anything physical. It was for anxiety. I turned the bottle in my hand. Checked the date. Refill after refill. That told me more than anything she had said so far. This hadn't just been happening. It had been building. I put the bottle back exactly where I found it. Closed the drawer. When I walked back into the living room, Simone's eyes were open. How long have you been taking those? I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. A while, she said. That answer again. For him. I asked. She hesitated. Then. Because of everything, she said. I nodded. Not arguing. Not correcting. Because people don't always see the cause clearly when they're still inside it. Do they know? I asked. She shook her head. No, she said. They wouldn't approve. Approve. I sat back down. That word fit too. Easily with everything else. Control. Permission. Correction. This wasn't just about anger. It was about ownership. Simone, I said. She looked at me. Who has access to your phone? I asked. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? I mean exactly that, I said. Who checks it? A pause. Sometimes he does, she admitted. Without asking. Another pause. Yes. I nodded slowly. And your money? She didn't answer right away. We share accounts, she said. That's not what I asked. Silence. He handles most of it, she said quietly. Of course he did. I leaned forward slightly. Do you have access? I asked. She nodded. But I don't really use it, she added. That was enough. Not because of what she said. Because of how she said it. Careful. Measured. Like every answer had already been filtered before it reached me. Upstairs, I heard movement again. Slower this time. Deliberate. He knows you're still here, Simone said quietly. I know. He won't like it. I looked at her. That's not my concern, I said. She didn't respond. But something shifted in her expression. Not relief. Something closer to recognition. Like she was seeing a version of this situation that didn't revolve around him. That mattered. Because once that shift starts, it doesn't stop easily. Morning came slowly. The light through the windows felt almost out of place. Too normal. Too calm. Like it didn't belong in this house. Simone hadn't moved much. Still on the couch. Still quiet. I stood up. Walked back into the kitchen. Started making coffee. Routine. Sometimes routine is the only thing that keeps everything from falling apart. I heard footsteps behind me. Not Simone's. Him. I didn't turn around right away. I let him enter the room. Let him think he was stepping into something familiar. Still here, he said. Casual. Like we were talking about weather. I poured the coffee. Set the cup down. Then I turned. Yes, I said. He leaned against the counter. Arms crossed. You should probably head out, he added. We're fine. I held his gaze. No, I said. Just that. Nothing more. That's when the tone changed. Subtle. But there. You're making this bigger than it is, he said. I didn't answer. You saw one moment, he continued. You don't know how things work between us. There it was. Minimize. Control the narrative. Shift the perspective. I let him finish. Then I spoke. I saw enough, I said. Silence. Not loud. Not tense. Just final. He straightened slightly. That confidence from the night before. It wasn't gone. But it wasn't as solid. Because something had changed. Not in him. In the situation. Because now, he wasn't the only one defining it anymore. And that was where things started to shift. He didn't argue after that. Not right away. That's something people misunderstand about control. It doesn't always push back immediately. Sometimes it pauses. Adjusts. He picked up his coffee. Took a slow sip. Like nothing had shifted. Simone, he said, not looking at me. We need to talk. She didn't move. Still on the couch. Still quiet. I think we've said enough for now, I replied. He looked at me then. Really looked this time. Not annoyed. Not dismissive. Calculating. This is between me and my wife, he said. There it was. Ownership. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence sit there. Then I said, she's my daughter. Same tone. Same calm. He held my gaze for a second longer. Then something in his expression shifted. Not anger. Strategy. Simone. He tried again, softer this time. You know I didn't mean it like that. She didn't answer. I was stressed, he continued. You know how things have been lately. There it was again. Excuse. Context. Pressure. All the things that make something unacceptable sound understandable. I watched her. Not him. Her shoulders. Her hands. Her breathing. Because that's where the truth shows up. Say something, he said. That was the first crack. Not in volume. In control. She lifted her eyes. Just slightly. I'm tired, she said. Not an argument. Not a confrontation. A boundary. Small. But real. He let out a short breath. Turned away. Walked to the counter. That's when I noticed it. His phone. Face down. Screen lighting up. A message. He didn't pick it up right away. But I saw the name. His mother. Of course. He flipped the phone over. Read it. Didn't respond. Then looked back. At us. You're making this worse than it is, he said again. I didn't answer. Because repeating something doesn't make it true. It just shows you're running out of options. Simone shifted slightly on the couch. Winced. Barely. He saw it. And for a second, something passed across his face. Not guilt. Awareness. Like he knew. This time had gone too far. But even then, he didn't apologize. That told me everything I needed to know. Do you remember last month? I asked. He frowned slightly. What about it? I didn't look at him. I looked at Simone. The bruise on your arm, I said. She froze. It was the same side, I added. Silence. He didn't speak. Didn't interrupt. That mattered. Because people deny quickly when they think they can. He didn't. Which meant he knew. That was different, he said finally. Different. I nodded slowly. Of course it was, I said. Same pattern. Different moment. That was an accident, he added. There it was. Always an accident. Always an explanation. Never a responsibility. Simone's hands tightened again. I saw it. He didn't. Or maybe he chose not to. Simone, I said quietly, go get your things. She looked at me. Confused. Just for today, I added. That mattered. Because you don't break something all at once. You create space first. He stepped forward slightly. No, he said. First time. Clear. direct. She's not going anywhere. I turned to him. And this time, I didn't soften anything. She is, I said. No explanation. No emotion. Just fact. He laughed again. But it didn't land the same way. You think you can just walk in here and take her? He said. I didn't move. I'm not taking anything, I replied. I paused. I'm giving her a choice. That's when it hit. Not him. Her. Choice. She looked between us. And for the first time since the night before, I saw something different. Not fear. Not hesitation. Space. Just a little. But enough. Upstairs, something shifted. A floorboard. A reminder. This house had been built on control for a long time. And control doesn't break easily. But it does crack. Slowly. Quietly. Right there. In moments like this, she didn't move right away. That's how you know it's real. Not the words. Not the situation. The pause. Simone stayed exactly where she was. Hands still. Eyes shifting between me and him. Me. Him. Me. Choice sounds simple when you say it out loud. It isn't. Not when you've been living without it for a long time. You don't have to go, he said. Softer now. Controlled. That was new. Not the words. The tone. I didn't mean to push things that far, he added. There it was. Not an apology. A reposition. I didn't respond. I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on her. Just for today, I repeated. That mattered. Because forever is overwhelming. But one day is possible. She stood up slowly. And that was it. Not dramatic. Not loud. But final. He saw it too. His posture changed. Not much. But enough. You're overreacting, he said. Not to me. To her. That shift told me everything. He wasn't trying to convince me anymore. He was trying to pull her back. You're tired, he continued. You didn't sleep. Let's just reset. Reset. Like the night before could be erased. Simone didn't answer. She walked past him. Toward the stairs. He didn't stop her. But he turned. Watched. Every step she took. He tracked it. That's the kind of control people don't notice. Not physical. Not obvious. But present. She disappeared upstairs. The house went quiet again. Just me and him. He let out a breath. Not frustrated. Measured. You think this helps? He said. I didn't answer. Taking her out of the house, he continued. Getting in her head. I almost smiled. Because that's how it always sounds. When control starts slipping. She already knows what's happening, I said. He shook his head. No, he replied. She thinks she does. There it was. Doubt. Plant it early. Let it grow. I stepped closer. Not aggressive. Just enough to remove distance. She knows enough? I said. He held my gaze. Longer this time. And for the first time, I saw something new. Not confidence. Not control. Uncertainty. Small. But there. Upstairs, I heard movement. Closet doors. Drawers opening. He heard it too. His jaw tightened slightly. She'll come back, he said. Not to me. To himself. I didn't respond. Because that's the thing about statements like that. They don't need to be challenged. They reveal themselves. A few minutes later, she came back down. Small bag in her hand. Not much. Just enough. That mattered. Because it wasn't about leaving everything. It was about leaving it all. He looked at the bag. Then at her. You're really doing this? He asked. No anger. No shouting. Just disbelief. She nodded. Once. I just need some space, she said. That word again. Space. He let out a short laugh. From me, he asked. She didn't answer. And that silence said more than anything else. I picked up my purse. Moved toward the door. She followed. Not quickly, but without stopping. We reached the front door. I opened it. The same air from the night before. Cool. Still. She stepped outside first. That mattered too. He didn't follow us. Didn't stop us. But I could feel it. Even without turning around. That shift. Control. Loosening. Not gone. But no longer complete. We walked to my car. She got in. Closed the door. Sat there quietly. Hands in her lap. I got in on my side. Started the engine. Neither of us spoke right away. The house behind us stayed still. Like nothing had happened. Like it could all continue. But it couldn't. Because something had already changed. Not in him. In her. And once that changes, everything else follows. We didn't drive far. That's the first thing people assume. That you leave, and you go somewhere far enough to feel safe. That's not how it works. Not at first. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot about 10 minutes away. Mid-morning. Cars coming and going. People pushing carts like nothing in the world was wrong. I turned off the engine. But neither of us got out. Simone sat beside me. still holding that small bag, like she wasn't sure if this was temporary or something else. You're okay, I said. She nodded, but it wasn't a real answer. Her eyes were on the windshield, not focused, just fixed. I don't know what happens now, she said. Honest. That mattered more than anything she had said before. We don't figure out everything today, I replied. She looked at me. Then what do we do? She asked. I thought about that. Not the big answer. Just the next step. We slow it down, I said. She frowned slightly. What does that mean? It means we stop reacting to him, I explained. And we start paying attention to what's actually been happening. She didn't respond right away, because that shift, from reacting to seeing, takes time. Simone, I said, has he ever apologized after something like that? She hesitated. Sometimes, she said. Immediately, I asked. Another pause. No, I nodded. What happens instead? She leaned back slightly, closed her eyes for a second. He explains it, she said. Explains. Go on, I said. He says I pushed him, she continued. Or that I misunderstood. Or that it wasn't as bad as it looked. I nodded again. And after that, she exhaled. I apologize, she said. There it was. Not just control. A loop. Do you believe him? I asked. That question landed differently. She didn't answer right away. Because for the first time, she had space to think about it. I used to, she said. Used to. Progress. I reached into my purse. Pulled out my phone. Not to call. Not yet. To take a note. What are you doing? She asked. Documenting, I said. She looked at me. Why? Because memory changes, I replied. Especially when someone keeps telling you your version is wrong. She went quiet. I typed a few lines. Simple. Clear. Dinner. Physical contact. Witnesses present. No intervention. Then I locked the phone. This is where it starts, I said. With writing it down. With not letting it be rewritten, I corrected. She stared at me for a moment. Then slowly, she nodded. We sat there a while longer. The world outside kept moving. Normal. Predictable. That contrast matters. Because it reminds you. What's happening to you isn't normal. Her phone buzzed. She didn't pick it up. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, she turned the screen toward me. His name. Over and over. I didn't tell her what to do. I just watched. She stared at it. Then, she turned the phone face down. That was new. Not answering is a decision. You don't have to respond right now, I said. She nodded. I know. But this time, it sounded like she actually meant it. A few minutes later, another message came through. This time, a different name. His mother. Simone didn't even look at it. That told me everything. Where do you want to go? I asked. She thought for a second. Your place, she said. Simple. Clear. Okay, I replied. I started the engine again. As we pulled out of the parking lot, she looked back once. Not at the store. Not at anything specific. Just back. That's normal. You don't leave something like that cleanly. Part of you stays. But part of you moves. And that's the part that matters. We drove in silence. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had direction. Because now, we weren't inside it anymore. We were outside it. And that changes everything. We didn't talk much on the drive to my house. That wasn't unusual. What mattered was that she didn't fill the silence. She let it sit. When we pulled into my driveway, she didn't move right away. Her hand stayed on the door handle. Not opening it. Not pulling back. Just there. You can stay as long as you need, I said. She nodded. I know. But this time, it didn't sound like something she was saying to comfort me. It sounded like something she was starting to believe. Inside, the house felt different. Not because anything had changed, but because she was in it. Safe spaces don't always feel safe at first. They feel unfamiliar. She walked in slowly, looked around, like she was checking if everything was still where she remembered it. It's the same, she said quietly. Most things are, I replied. She set her bag down on the couch. Didn't unpack it. Didn't sit. Just stood there. What now? She asked. That question again. Not about the future. About the next step. We keep it simple, I said. She looked at me. How? We don't go back today, I said. That landed. Not heavy, but clear. And tomorrow? She asked. We'll decide tomorrow. That mattered. Because control had always lived in the future. Promises. Threats. Expectations. So we stayed in the present. Her phone buzzed again. She picked it up this time. Not to answer. Just to look. There were more messages now. Longer. Different tone. Not calm. Not controlled. Urgent. What does he say? I asked. She hesitated. Then read it. He says I'm overreacting, she said. He says I embarrassed him in front of his family. I nodded. Anything about what he did? She looked at the screen again. No, of course not. What else? I asked. He says his mom is upset, she added. That I disrespected her. I almost smiled. Because there it was. Shift the focus. Move the blame. Make her the problem. Simone lowered the phone. I don't know what to say, she said. You don't have to say anything, I replied. She looked at me. But if I don't respond, it gets worse. That sentence mattered. Not because it was wrong. Because it had been true, until now. Worse how? I asked. She thought for a moment. He calls more, she said. He shows up. He doesn't stop. I nodded. That's pressure, I said. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? It's not communication, I explained. It's pressure to get you back into the same position. She went quiet. Because once you name something, you can't unsee it. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she muted it. Didn't hesitate. Didn't look at me for confirmation. She just did it. That was new. We sat down at the kitchen table. Same one she grew up eating at. I poured her a glass of water. She held it, but didn't drink. Simone, I said, do you have copies of your documents? She looked up. What documents? ID, bank information, anything important. She shook her head slowly. Most of it's at the house, she said. I nodded. That's fine, I replied. But in my head, I adjusted. Because this wasn't just emotional anymore. This was practical. Step by step. We'll get them later, I said. She didn't ask how. That mattered. Because she was starting to trust the process. Not just the moment. The house stayed quiet. No footsteps. No tension. Just space. After a while, she leaned back in her chair. Closed her eyes. Not exhausted. Releasing. That's the difference. Her phone stayed face down on the table. Silent. And for the first time since the night before. Nothing was pulling her back. I watched her for a moment. Then I stood up. Walked into the other room. Closed the door behind me. And picked up my phone. Because while she was finally out of it, I wasn't done yet. I need to talk to you, I said when the line connected. A pause. Then, I figured you would, the voice replied. I looked back toward the kitchen. She was still there. Still sitting. Still breathing. And for the first time, she wasn't waiting for something to happen. That meant I could. This is bigger than I thought, I said quietly. Then we handle it properly, the voice answered. I nodded. Because that's exactly what we were about to do. I stayed in the other room longer than the call required. Not because the conversation was complicated, but because I needed to think about how far this was going to go. When I walked back into the kitchen, Simone hadn't moved much. Same chair. Same posture. But something was different. She wasn't holding herself as tightly anymore. Her phone was still on the table. Face down. Silent. Who was that? She asked. A friend, I said. She nodded. Didn't press. That mattered. Because before, she would have asked more. Needed more. Now, she was starting to let things unfold without controlling them. That didn't take long, she said after a moment. It didn't need to, I replied. She studied me for a second. What are you doing? She asked. I sat back down across from her. I'm making sure we don't do this halfway, I said. She frowned slightly. What does that mean? It means we don't go back, I said. It means we don't pretend this was just a bad night. She looked down at the table. He's going to come here, she said quietly. Probably, I replied. And if he does? I held her gaze. Then he does. No panic. No urgency. Just fact. She leaned back slightly. You're not worried? She asked. I shook my head. No, I said. That wasn't entirely true. But fear doesn't help in situations like this. Clarity does. Her phone lit up again. Another message. This one's shorter. She flipped it over. Looked. What does it say? I asked. She hesitated. Then, he's outside, she said. I didn't move. Already? I asked. She nodded. Of course he was. Control doesn't like distance. It closes it as fast as it can. You don't have to answer the door, I said. She looked toward the front of the house. He'll keep knocking, she said. I know. A pause. And if I don't open it? I leaned back in my chair. Then he stands outside, I said. Simple. Clear. She exhaled slowly. There was a knock. Not loud. Not aggressive. Measured. Like he was still trying to keep things under control. Simone didn't move. The knock came again. Longer this time. Still calm. But more deliberate. He's not going to stop, she said. No, I replied. That's the point. The third knock came sharper. Then, his voice. Simone. Not yelling. Calling. Like nothing was wrong. Like this was normal. I watched her. Her shoulders tightened slightly. Her hand moved. Then stopped. That moment matters. That's where patterns repeat. Or break. You don't have to go, I said again. She nodded. But she didn't answer. The door handle rattled slightly. Not forced. Just tested. Then his voice again. Open the door. Different tone now. Less patient. More familiar. The one she knew best. I stood up. Not quickly. Not dramatically. Just enough. I'll handle it, I said. Her head snapped up. No, she said immediately. First strong response. That mattered. I stopped. Looked at her. Why not? I asked. She swallowed. Because it makes it worse, she said. There it was again. That belief. That stepping in escalates things. I nodded slowly. Then we don't escalate, I said. She frowned slightly. What does that mean? It means we don't react the way he expects, I replied. Another knock. Harder this time. Silence inside. The house held it. Simone stood up slowly. Walked toward the door. Each step careful. Measured. I didn't stop her. Because this part had to be hers. She reached the door. Stopped. Her hand hovered over the handle. Then, she stepped back. Didn't open it. Didn't speak. Just stepped back. The knocking stopped. Just like that. Silence. Heavy. Different. Because something had just changed. Not outside. Inside. She turned back toward me. And for the first time since this started. She didn't look like she was waiting for permission. She looked like she had made a decision. Small. But real. And once that happens, everything after it follows. If this story made you stop FO, hit subscribe. That's how stories like this reach the people who actually need them. Drop a like if you've ever seen something like this happen. And share TH because someone out there is still sitting at that table, in silence. The silence after the knocking didn't last. It never does. At first, it felt like he had left. No footsteps. No car door. No engine. But control doesn't leave that easily. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I already knew who it was. I didn't answer right away. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I picked up. Eleanor. His voice. Calm again. Measured. Like he had reset. She needs to come back, he said. Not a question. I leaned back in the chair. No, I replied. Silence. Not long. Just enough. You're making a mistake, he said. I almost smiled. Because that's how it shifts. From control to warning. I don't think so, I said. Another pause. You don't understand how this works, he added. There it was again. That assumption. That I was outside something I couldn't see. I understand enough, I said. His tone changed slightly. Not louder. Sharper. She's my wife, he said. Ownership. Again. And she's my daughter, I replied. Same words. Same line. But this time, it landed differently. Because now, he knew I wasn't stepping back. You're not helping her, he said. You're confusing her. I didn't respond. Because people like him need you to argue. To react. To step into the space they control. I wasn't doing that. I'll be there in 10 minutes, he said. I ended the call. Didn't answer. Didn't warn. I just set the phone down. Walked back into the living room. Simone was standing now. She had heard enough. He's coming, she said. I nodded. Yes. Her hands tightened slightly. Not panic. Preparation. What do we do? She asked. I looked at her. We don't change anything, I said. She frowned. What does that mean? It means we don't go back, I replied. Clear. Simple. She nodded slowly. That was all I needed. 10 minutes passed. Then, headlights through the window. A car door. Footsteps. This time, faster. Not controlled anymore. The knock came immediately. Loud. Not measured. Demanding. Simone. He didn't wait. Another knock. Harder. I stayed. Where I was. Didn't move toward the door. Didn't rush. Simone stood beside me. Not behind. That mattered. Open the door, he said. I looked at her. You don't have to, I said quietly. She didn't answer. But she didn't move either. The knocking stopped. Then, the handle again. This time, harder. Testing. Pushing. Then silence. A long one. And then, his voice. Lower. Don't do this, he said. Different tone. Not anger. Something else. Fear. Small. But real. Because for the first time, he wasn't controlling the situation. He was outside it. Simone took a breath. Then, she spoke. Through the door. I'm not coming back tonight. Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't shake. Silence. Then, a short laugh. Disbelief. You don't mean that, he said. She didn't answer. That was the answer. Another pause. Then, his footsteps. Not leaving. Pacing. Trying to decide. Trying to regain something. I stood up. Walked toward the door. Stopped just short of it. Not opening. Just there. Go home, I said. No emotion. No explanation. Just direction. Silence. Then, a shift. Not loud, but final. Footsteps moving away. Car door. Engine. Gone. Just like that. The house went quiet again. But this time, it felt different. Not tense. Not heavy. Clear. Simone exhaled slowly, like she had been holding that breath for a long time. You did that, I said. She looked at me, confused. I didn't. Yes, I said. You did. Because she had. Not by fighting. Not by arguing. But by not stepping back. And once that happens, everything after it changes. The house stayed quiet long after his car pulled away. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty. The kind that feels new. Simone didn't sit down right away. She stayed standing in the middle of the room, like her body hadn't caught up to what just happened. Did he leave? She asked. I nodded. Yes. She let out a breath. Slow. Controlled. Not relief. Not yet. Something closer to disbelief. He's never left like that before, she said. I believed her. Because control doesn't walk away. It tightens. Pushes harder. Finds another angle. Then this is the first time, I said. She looked at me. And that matters, I added. She didn't answer. But I could see it. That shift again. Small. But building. She walked over to the couch. Sat down. This time, she leaned back. Not perched on the edge. Not ready to move. Settled. That was new. Her phone stayed on the table. Face down. Silent. I keep thinking he's going to come back, she said. He might, I replied. She nodded. But something feels different, she added. I watched her. What feels different? I asked. She hesitated. Then, I didn't fix it, she said. I nodded slowly. That was it. The pattern had been broken. Not by solving it. Not by calming it. By not participating in it. That's why it feels different, I said. She looked at me. Because you didn't go back to the same place, I explained. Silence. Then, a small nod. I didn't even realize I was doing that, she said. Most people don't. That's how it works. You were keeping things stable, I said. At your own expense. She looked down at her hands. I thought I was helping, she said. I know, I replied. That's the part that keeps people stuck. Good intentions. Misplaced responsibility. Her phone lit up again. She didn't reach for it. That told me everything. Do you want to see what he's saying? I asked. She shook her head. Not right now. I nodded. That was another decision. Another step. We stayed like that for a while. No urgency. No pressure. Just space. Then, I need to tell you something, she said. I waited. She looked up. There's more, she added. Of course there was. There's always more, I said quietly. She gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, she said. Then her expression shifted. More serious. He's not the only one, she said. I didn't interrupt. His mom, she continued. A pause. She's the one who explains it to me after, she said. Explains. Again. She tells me how to behave differently, Simone added. What to say? What not to say? How to keep things from getting worse. I felt something settle into place. Not surprise. Confirmation. So it's not just him, I said. She shook her head. No, she replied. It's all of them. There it was. Not a relationship problem. A system. Built. Maintained. Protected. That's why no one reacted last night, she added. I nodded. Because now, it all made sense. The silence. The calm. The continuation. They've been managing it, I said. She looked at me. Managing what? The situation, I replied. Keeping it contained. Keeping it quiet. She leaned back again. That's exactly what it feels like, she said. Of course it did. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And now? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, I don't think I can go back into that, she said. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just clear. I nodded. You don't have to, I said. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was steady. Because something had finally been named. Not just what happened, but what it was. And once that happens, you don't go back to pretending it's something else. The house didn't feel tense anymore. That was the first real change. Not the silence. We'd had silence before. But this one, Didn't feel like something was about to break. Simone stayed at my place that night. And the next, she didn't rush to decide anything. Didn't pack everything. Didn't make announcements. She just stayed. And sometimes, that's the first real step. Not leaving everything. Just not going back. The messages slowed after the second day. Not stopped, but changed. From control to confusion. From certainty to questions. Then, eventually, to silence. That's how it ends sometimes. Not with one final moment, but with something losing its grip. A week later, we went back to her house. Not to stay, to get her things. We went in the middle of the day. No warning. No announcement. The house looked exactly the same. That's what surprised me. Same furniture. Same light through the windows. Same table where everything started. But it didn't feel the same. Because she didn't belong to it anymore. She walked in slowly. Looked around. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just clearly. That's where it happened, she said quietly, glancing at the dining table. I didn't respond. She didn't need me to. She already knew. We moved through the house room by room. Clothes. Documents. A few personal things. Not everything. Just what mattered. That matters too. Because leaving isn't about taking it all with you. It's about knowing what you don't need anymore. He wasn't there. Neither was his mother. No confrontation. No scene. Just absence. And sometimes, that's louder than anything else. Before we left, Simone paused at the front door. Not frozen. Not hesitant. Just taking a moment. Then she opened it. Stepped outside. Didn't look back. That was the difference. Weeks passed. Things didn't magically fix themselves. There were conversations. Legal steps. Boundaries that had to be made clear. But none of it was chaotic. None of it pulled her back in. Because something fundamental had changed. She wasn't trying to manage him anymore. She wasn't trying to keep things calm. She wasn't trying to make it work. She was just done. One evening, we were sitting in my kitchen. Same table she grew up at. She had her phone in her hand. Scrolling. Then she stopped. He sent a message, she said. I looked at her. What does it say? She read it once. Then again. He says he didn't realize it was that bad, she said. I didn't react. She looked up at me. That used to work on me, she added. I nodded. What about now? I asked. She held my gaze. It doesn't change anything, she said. And that was it. Not anger. Not closure in the way people expect. Just clarity. Months later, life looked different. Not perfect. Not untouched. But steady. She laughed again. Called friends. Started rebuilding things she had quietly let go of. And one afternoon, we sat outside on the porch. Same chairs. Same view. She leaned back. Closed her eyes. I keep thinking about that night, she said. I waited. The dinner, she added. I nodded. What about it? I asked. She smiled slightly. I thought that was the worst part, she said. A pause. But it wasn't. I looked at her. What was? I asked. She opened her eyes. Looked straight at me. The silence, she said. I nodded. Because she was right. It wasn't the slap. It was everything around it. The acceptance. The normalization. The way it was allowed to exist. And then she said something I'll never forget. I thought I was alone in that moment, she said. I shook my head. You weren't, I replied. She smiled. I know, she said. And this time, she really meant it. I looked out at the yard. The same place I'd stood so many times before. And I thought about that night. The table. The silence. The decision to stand up and walk away. It didn't feel dramatic now. It felt necessary. Because sometimes, nothing changes until someone refuses to pretend it's normal. And that night, that someone was us. And we never went back. A tense cinematic family dinner scene inside a warm but suffocating dining room. An older woman in her early 60s with a calm, controlled, sharp expression slowly rising from her chair, while facing a younger man in his late 30s standing across the table with a confrontational posture and subtle arrogance. Both locked in a silent, emotional standoff. A young woman in her early 30s sits between them with her head lowered, gripping a napkin tightly, her face showing shock and suppressed pain. Several blurred figures sit frozen around the table, avoiding eye contact. Golden overhead lighting contrasts with the heavy atmosphere, high emotional tension, realistic skin texture, cinematic depth of field, 35mm lens perspective, subtle shadows, dramatic composition, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, 1-2. A quiet early morning kitchen scene inside a modest American home. An older woman in her 60s calmly preparing coffee near a window, her face composed but thoughtful, showing deep life experience and emotional restraint. Soft natural sunlight illuminating her features, warm tones filling the room. Behind her on the wall are framed photographs of her raising her daughter through the years, subtle nostalgia and emotional weight. The environment clean but lived in. A young woman in her early 30s stands in the background, slightly out of focus, observing silently. Her expression neutral but distant, cinematic realism. 50mm lens, soft shadows, balanced composition, detailed textures. No cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. A cold and emotionally distant kitchen environment. A young woman in her early 30s stands at a sink washing dishes with mechanical, repetitive movements. Her face expressionless and withdrawn, wearing long sleeves that subtly conceal marks on her wrist. A man in his late 30s passes behind her without making eye contact, his presence dominating the space without physical interaction. The lighting is pale and sterile, creating a sense of emotional isolation. The older woman appears faintly reflected in a nearby glass surface, observing with quiet concern. Cinematic framing, muted color palette, shallow depth of field, psychological tension. 35mm lens, hyper-realistic detail. No cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. A dramatic nighttime interior scene. The older mother stands firmly in front of a closed front door, her posture protective and unyielding, her face calm but determined. Behind her, slightly offset, stands the daughter, hesitant but beginning to find strength, her expression conflicted yet alert. Outside the door, a shadowy male figure is visible through frosted glass, knocking insistently. Strong exterior light casts long, distorted shadows into the room. Tension builds through composition and lighting contrast. The environment minimal but emotionally charged. Cinematic wide-angle framing, high contrast lighting, deep shadows, suspenseful atmosphere. No cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. Inside a parked car during daylight, the older woman sits in the driver's seat facing forward with calm composure, her expression controlled and observant. The daughter sits in the passenger seat, holding a phone that lights up repeatedly with incoming calls, her hands slightly trembling, her face conflicted between fear and decision. Natural daylight fills the interior, creating a soft but tense mood. Reflections on the windshield add visual layering. The environment outside slightly blurred. Intimate framing focuses on emotional expressions, cinematic close-up style, shallow depth of field, 50mm lens, realistic skin tones. No cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. A softly lit bedroom filled with warm afternoon sunlight. The daughter stands inside her childhood room, touching familiar objects like books and furniture, her expression slowly shifting from anxiety to clarity and quiet strength. The older mother stands near the doorway watching, silently, supportive but not intrusive, dust particles visible in the sunlight. Nostalgic and safe atmosphere, warm color grading, cinematic glow, detailed environment. Emotional transformation captured through posture and facial expression. 85mm lens, shallow focus, high realism. No cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. Daytime inside a quiet and empty house. The daughter and mother stand near a dining table, the same place where the confrontation occurred. The daughter looks down at the table with a calm but deeply reflective expression. No tears, only recognition and emotional processing. The mother stands slightly behind her, composed and steady, offering silent support. Neutral, cool tones dominate the space. Minimal furniture, subtle shadows. Cinematic stillness, 35mm lens framing, high emotional realism. Balanced composition, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon. 1, 2. A peaceful sunset scene on a front porch. The older mother and daughter sit side by side facing outward, warm golden light bathing their faces, both expressions calm and grounded, no visible tension. The daughter leans back slightly with a sense of release, while the mother looks outward with quiet assurance. Open space in front of them symbolizes freedom and closure. soft shadows, and warm tones create emotional resolution. Cinematic wide shot, 50mm lens, natural environment detail, realistic. Textures, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, no cartoon, 1, 2.